All right, folks. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla. وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا رب الكريم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Hope you're all good, inshallah. So today's session is dedicated to menstruation. It's not a sister's private session. I believe this is obviously obligatory knowledge for ladies, but very important knowledge for males as well. And it's good. Sometimes they might understand something or hear something that they can educate the female members of their household on and the like. This is being recorded, inshallah, hopefully. And what I would like you to do for me is to go to the Telegram group. The Abid, if you can put on your mic and camera. And what I want you to do, why isn't Abid's camera and microphone working? Bear with me, folks. Doc's on holiday. Let's find out where he is. There he is. Doc, you've disappeared. Both video and microphone disappeared. There we go. That's better. Speak so we can hear you, man. Nope, we can't hear you. I think you've got your headphones in and you haven't changed your input microphone to, you need to change your input microphone to your AirPod or your thingy. We'll wait for Doc. Just don't want to open up the thingy chat for everybody to write 1,000 messages, man. It becomes so much. So I was thinking, once Doc comes on screen, I'm going to ask you all to go to the announcements channel. Just wait, okay? Because we want Doc to be on the screen. And try speaking of it.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. So now, if you go to the Telegram group, guys, announcements channel, and thumbs up on my last post announcing this to say that you can hear both myself and Doc loud and clear. All right, folks? So just on the group. Thank you so much, and I appreciate that. There's almost unanimous report that everybody can hear and see. That's a nice and easy thing. I appreciate you did. We'll get started. The plan is obviously there's a lot of questions. Again, I'm hoping that people are not taking liberties, and people taking liberties being read the material, not reading the guidance summary. That guidance summary is Doc took a long time producing that, right? 5-minute summary, but it took a long time to get ready. My email that obviously is a long read and you need to be clear. And the video is the detail as well. You can't expect to not put the work in. This is deen, this is fiqh, this is serious stuff, this is what we do. And if you want to play the game, then you got to be following the rules. To just come here and ask a question, it's going to be very shallow knowledge. All right. So again, I remind you that when I look through now the Q&A list in terms of the questions that what we're going to answer, if I see questions that are clearly people just being too lazy and not watching, then that will be very obvious and you get treated like how you're treating the subject. Whereas those that have got follow-ups, we not just welcome that, we expect. When running away from session questions, you should all that. Okay, we've been doing hundreds of these sessions, and we don't just do it for our group, but you know, we're early in the doc, highly in demand. Some would have seen helping Patel and Arif their sections as well. We're not running away from people, but we are not going to show the level of community who themselves commit. Okay, folks, that's very, very important. So, as I also said in our channel, Um, the will be a response or scenario or question that we'll give now, and you might have an idea. You should be confident about it and put your hand up, and you're going to speak. But completely understand that's not something that you are comfortable with. But that's okay. So go back onto the form and say, you just answered my question on so and so, and this is so and so, and you just answered my question. Just want to follow up and say that. That's a way that we can maintain constant contact. Okay, that's the first thing. This is not the one last opportunity to ask a question. There will be another session as well next Saturday. So this is Sunday, obviously today, but every Saturday evening we're going to be having a weekly check-in, and there will be a medical matters one. There will be another session possible for the ladies. That's going to be run only by the female guides and a few guests as well. So don't panic about that. Chief, how do you want to do this? You want to take it from the top, or do you want to group them? Do you want to just any quick go, whatever? How do you want to do this?
No, basically, I just wanted to have a brief 5 minutes introduction to the
Bismillah.
topic. But before doing that one, just a disclaimer. In general, I have read every single question as well. As Sheikh has already mentioned in my introduction video, okay, I have got a no-nonsense approach. And please don't take me wrong on this one, because a lot of questions are kind of a wish list there as well, in which people have already made up their mind because of any reasons, but they just wanted a reassurance from us to tell them that whatever they are doing is the right thing. Unfortunately, I might not be able to do that one. I will tell you exactly the way things are, and what we have seen. Me and Sheikh both have spent lot of time of researching these issues, lot of time reading about them, and lot of time discussing with the specialist on these scenarios, especially menstrual issues. And eventually all the consultant has came back to us. They stated the medical evidence is not written in these scenarios which you are facing, like heat of 52, stress, walking for a long period of time. The literature has been written in normal circumstances. So all these things put huge stress on human body, and how the human body is going to respond is unpredictable. And one of the professor has told me, okay, Abid, you are the expert in this field because you deal with those patients in those scenarios. We have not seen it. So you are the expert in means that you deal with whatever is the best possible way. We can guide you and tell you what medication works and not works. So that is a disclaimer at the start. Okay. I have categorized these whole menstrual issue into 3 or 4 broad topics, and then some subtopics at the end of it. First and the foremost topic is for the ladies who decide, and for any reason, medical reason, religious reason, or they believe about taking the medication, it is they wanted to go natural. They think their periods are regular and they will not be bleeding in those kind of scenario, and they don't wanted anything to do with the unnatural thing or taking the medication. Those ladies, the advice from my side and from our side is, number one, make sure that you know your cycle very well and you have calculated it. And then make sure that you have got all the tools with you, like sanitary products and all those kind of things available to you. Plus, prepare you in mind that maybe this will not work. Maybe you will start bleeding at some point. Sometimes it's too late. Last year, we had 2 ladies I know very well because they were very close to us, because we know them very well. They decided, and they were absolutely, their cycle was 28 days. They should not be bleeding. and they started bleeding. And then it becomes very, very, very hard for us to deal with that, because there is no medication available which will work immediately. So you calculate your cycle, you make up your mind, and then but be ready for it. The other element of this also keep in mind is, it's not the physical element of you started bleeding and we have to deal with bleeding, or you have to deal with the bleeding and we have to give you the medication. Is the psychological impact as well, how it will impact your Hajj. So just keep those things in mind, but that is your decision. What we can do is we can advise you, we can guide you, Sheikh can give you fatwa, Sheikh can give you advice on the religious matters as well. But what we can't do is to make a decision for you. Decision has to come from you. So you have to make that decision. That's number one scenario. Second scenario are the ladies who are taking the combined oral contraceptive pills. Combined oral contraceptive pills work exactly the same way the hormone in your body releases. Initial phase, you give the estrogen, then later on the progesterone comes in, which stabilizes your womb, and then you have got 7 days break, in which you get bleeding like your periods. We call it withdrawal bleeding. That is not actually a period, it's a withdrawal from the hormones which you are taking, and then you bleed, and then you start next cycle. In those ladies who are on combined contraceptive pills, they should not have a breakthrough. They should not have a break from the tablets. They start the day 21 days finish, they start the next packet straight away, and then they will continue. There might be a chance of them spotting or slight bleeding. So in those cases, we give a little bit of extra progesterone, which is norepinephrine, which is a synthetic progesterone, which stabilizes the womb, and they stop bleeding. That are those ladies. Third ladies are who are on progesterone only pills, which we call it mini pill. Mini pill, very small amount goes into the body and convert into estrogen as well. Those ladies, they don't have a break anyway. Majority of those ladies does not bleed at all, but some do. Books state you can either less bleeding, you have no bleeding, or so you can heavy bleeding. Body response is different. Those ladies should continue taking their contraceptive pills. If they start spotting or anything like that, we can give a little bit extra dose of norepinephrine, and we can deal with that one. Then the ladies comes in who wanted to stop. They have calculated it. They wanted to stop their periods. All the doctors in UK and in America, they advise you have to start 3 days in advance norepinephrine or medroxyprogesterone, which is Provera. We'll tell you the names a little bit later. 3 days in advance. No, 3 days is too early. You have to have at least 7 to 10 days start of early. You can start one tablet 3 times a day, and then you can continue that one. We like norepinephrine, as it is mentioned in our documents as well, because it has got a window of going extra. Means 5 milligram tablets 3 times a day, but we can increase into 10 milligram 3 times a day as well, maximum. Medroxyprogesterone, number one, it's a weak progesterone. Number two, there is no window. Maximum is 10 milligram 3 times a day, and that is it. But it works as well. Some people who have already had experience with that one, they can use it. Then the ladies comes in who have got perimenopausal, they are spotting only, or a patient who have got polycystic ovarian disease and all that. Then every scenario comes in our questions. So as we are going through the questions, we'll deal with it, each one of them. There's one question has put to me the other day, in which the lady had she was on oral contraceptive pill. When she was 19, she had a pulmonary embolism due to oral contraceptive pill, so she can't take any pill. So what is the scenario with that one? That Now she is not on anticoagulant. She was on apixaban for 6 months. Now she is not on any contraceptive pills. So her risk is higher if she takes norethisterone, although most of the people will advise you not to take it, but literature in America and Canada, their literature is available. Norethisterone will be not recommended because it converts into estrogen a little bit more. A little bit of the estrogen converts as well. So that is a higher risk, but medroxyprogesterone is safe to give and they can take it if necessary. So I answered that lady already, but I thought I'd bring it forward. Now we'll go through the questions. But again, it's a disclaimer at the start. This advice is purely and purely based on what anything else, what we have seen over the last two years, 2023 and 2024. It was a huge problem for us, especially 2023, because we were not as aggressively treating people. We have at one time 70 ladies started bleeding. 70.
Unexpected. That's the
Pardon?
most important part.
Unexpected.
Unexpected. So this is not
Unexpected.
people out of our plan. 70 unexpected all come upon us in a complete state of breakdown.
And that's taken its toll because we did not have enough blood medication supply. We have there was by chance one of our friend was coming from UK with another group, so he has brought the supply from us. We run out of that one as well. Then we have to buy it from the from Saudi as well. So that's why last year we were aggressively, we were more prepared. We treated a little bit more aggressively, but again, we will advise you, we will guide you, we will tell you share you our experience, but decision will come from you. We will not be able to make a decision for you. So I am done with this introduction. Now we'll go through the question and then we'll take it one by one.
Yeah. So did you by the way color code groups, or are you going to go one by every single one you're going to answer
I think
individually?
because I have not color coded because they are all over the place. Okay. There
Yep.
are
Yep.
lot of fake question in between as well. So there is very difficult for me to product in that manner. We'll go one by one.
Yalla,
And if there's
you
answer
start.
is already done, we'll omit that one.
Refer back to it. Yeah. So while you look at that, again, folks, this is the reason why we're telling you whether you are done it before or not, expecting or not, gonna face resistance from your doctor or not. All of the ladies are going to be asking for that number, 210 norethistron tablets. This is not just looking at you as an individual. This is looking at you as an individual that's going to be in an unexpected situation. So don't think that why the hell do I need to go and ask for these tablets? I had no intention. You're being spoken to as a person who is not going to be stable over there, and B, a part of a group that might need your help as well. There's multiple factors going on. We've learned, as I said, over the last many years, and then in particular, you see, we had those 3 years, 2021, 22, where we didn't do Hajj. And the last time that we did it in 2019, the temperatures were nowhere near what they were, right? In the what we're seeing right now. So what we missed out on was a boiling month of July Hajj. Beginning of August and all of July, we didn't do Hajj because there was no Hajj, right? COVID and this and that. And so when we went into 2023, it's almost, even though we've been doing it for a couple of decades, we're almost gone in brand new with the level of exertion, the level of sweating, the level of heat was off the charts, and it changed everything. But the biodynamics of the body changed everything. So again, all of you are expected to try your very, very best to get the quantities of the specific medications that have been given in the document and the Menses guidance and the video as well. Don't think of just like this selfish attitude, which is, I don't have this problem. We didn't make that number up. These were women who had fully planned with either the mini pill or the combined contraceptive pill, or they were taking no pills, and they were very comfortable working out their cycles, and then bam, in the key moments, it all started going wrong. Incredibly stressful for us, 10 times more stressful for them. So we now go aggressive. Yes, last year was a success, relatively speaking, and this year we're hoping that will be the same. Yalla, Doc, Bismillah.
Yeah, the first question is the lady who had a PCO, polycystic ovarian disease, and she is waiting for an ultrasound and it has not been done. It's very difficult to say unless we know the polycystic ovarian disease is basically the release of the hormone is irregular. She will be spotting. She will be if she's got only polycystic ovarian disease, the only option is she is releasing the hormone all over the place because the cysts are not bursting to release the egg. So it's unpredictable. She has to, number one, she has to make a decision, does she want a tablet or not? Because she is at risk of bleeding anyway because of the unpredictability of the hormone release. So she has to be on the norethistérone well before she travel, ideally, because we are doing the seminar 2 cycles in advance, because if you wanted to make a try, you can start on a cycle earlier, and you have to be on the norethistérone tablets at least 10 days before you travel.
Not contraindicated in the cyst, is it? Is it
The
norethistérone?
polycystic ovarian is not contraindication.
So I think that then we should treat her like that, because if she, as you said, if she doesn't take any medication, the complete unpredictability of her bleeding with the cyst over there will be all over the show. We won't be able to
She will be
determine what's
all
going
over,
on.
all over the place.
Yeah. So you just need to know that it's safe for you to be taking the norethistérone, and that's what we would advise, and therefore follow the guidance that tells you when you should be taking, which is basically starting now, and just try to control it. And that's
The
again,
problem is, Sheikh,
um,
the problem also is, Sheikh, most of the people who are practicing Muslims, and they are very particular about their decision making, and they think before they travel, oh, we will get a fatwa and it's okay to bleeding and all that, because that is fine. But when they are over there, when they are bleeding, they from inside they are not satisfied. Yes, they want to, they get a fatwa, but they're bleeding, and they are at the back of their mind. It is always, are they pure? Is their hajj is acceptable? What's happening with me? It distorts them. It distorts them mentally.
I hope, folks, that you concentrated and listened very carefully when I spoke about that. A lot of folks praise me as well, but criticize me for my tangents. And that was a significant tangent that I went on in the masterclass. And I spoke about the era that we're in. And if you haven't watched the videos yet, ladies, then first of all, why not? But I re-emphasize what Doc just said. Our era, obviously in a pejorative way, in a cussing way, in a not very nice kind of way, people call everyone snowflakes and Gen Z and millennials and whatever. And I'm absolutely at the front of that queue. But when we're being serious, if we're going to be serious, there is a very marked difference in the quality of not just women, but everybody, men, women in our time. And they are not like those that are no nonsense, straightforward, simple, keep deen simple, halal, halal, haram, haram, and that's the end of it. They don't, value their emotions and their psychological state like what people do. The whole mental health, I'm not in the mental well-being. It's a bit madness that, there is definitely an important point about mental health. But the way that this current era, and it's not even one generation, you can't even blame Gen Alpha, you can't blame Gen Z, you can't blame millennials. It's an era thing. Past that, anyone that's been born past 1970, they are not like the people pre 1970, and we are too soft. And there's obviously some small advantages, but mostly disadvantages. And what that means is that you think that you're okay, and then over there you mentally break down. You think you're going to be tough, but you're not actually that tough. And you make things bigger than what they actually are, than they ever should be. And that puts us in a difficult situation. And that affects many Islamic rulings. So it is important to remember that this idea that I'm going to be like this, I'm going to be fine. If you are, then the ruling can be given. The question is, will you really be? And from our experience, we found that the majority don't have what it takes to be able to accept not going inside to the masjid to pray, for example, not being part of a certain kind of gathering inside the masjid, example, etc., 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 having to depend upon fatwa, upon fatwa, upon fatwa. These are minority positions, by the way. The vast majority of scholars do not allow a woman to go anywhere near a masjid when they are menstruating. Do you feel comfortable taking the fatwa? So be aware of this, that there is more than just the obvious fiqh challenges here. There is a social anthropological aspect going on here as well. Doc, she asked the question about whether there's a risk of the cyst coming back or being constantly on the norethisterone. That's not something that I'm aware of.
No.
Okay. All right, next question.
Sheikh, one point I completely wanted to mention it, but it was not in my notes, so I forgot to mention it, which is one of the most important point of this webinar is anybody who is on any pill or northestrone or anybody, the most important is compliance and time of taking it. You have to have a water with you all the time. You have to have your purse with you, which contains the medication. You have to put alarm on your phone, even if you're in mosque or walking or wherever you are. You have to take the tablets on time, irrespective of whatever stresses you are in. That is the most important thing, because if you miss the timing, you are going to mess up your hormone system. So you have to put alarm on, you have to take the medication, you have to keep medication all the time with you. That is the most important point. Okay. Now
okay. My husband and I, yep, I've been trying to conceive for a while. Yep.
the next
So I'll read it. Okay, I'll read it, and then you just answer it to speed things up. Yeah, been trying to conceive for a while. Will either the rest of the questions are not relevant questions.
yeah,
Will either pill that you suggested, if we want to stop our bleeding, have a knock-on effect after I stop taking it? Meaning affect the hormones I have after I have stopped taking the medication. I do want to take some kind of pill because I do know that my periods are during the Hajj days, but I don't want to affect conception chances afterwards.
yes, that will affect your cycle 1 or 2 cycles, unfortunately, because we are giving you a synthetic hormone from outside, and that will suppress your normal cycle of it. It takes up to 2 cycles to get back to the normality.
What about? But that's the key. Normality is returned to. There isn't a permanent effect or a
No,
1 year
no permanent
effect or
effect.
anything like that. Number 8, I have a copper coil, non-hormonal, fitted, and I take norethisterone to delay my period. Will there be any negative consequences? Will the medication still be just as effective with the coil?
Yes.
I want to take medication to ensure that I don't get my period. I'm a bit worried I won't be punctual with the norethisterone. Sheikh mentioned in the video that another pill that needs to be taken once a day is Provera. You know, I might have actually said once a day when, of course, medroxyprogesterone is actually 3 times a day. Am I more likely to get a period if I take Provera instead of norethisterone? And what happens if I'm not super punctual? Let me just say something that absolutely we believe that it is less effective. And so we don't believe that it is as good as norethisterone. And so there is a greater chance of you getting your period if you're taking the Provera. Norethisterone is better. You do, as you just heard, have to be unbelievably punctual with norethisterone. But Doc, I just wanted to check. Is there any clinical evidence for a once daily dosing of any form of progesterone oral?
No.
Yeah. So that answers that. And I do actually believe that I might have said in that video, I need to go back and check that that there is a medroxyprogesterone dose that's once daily. And I don't think there is. And I had doubts over that when I said it, and I should have checked. So anyway, in essence, there's no getting away with it. The original point of the video is the same.
A winner which we considered last year was, but then we decided against it, although it is off the shelf indication. If anybody is having a depot injection for contraception, it is licensed only for contraception depot injection, which is a high dose of progesterone implant, not implant, depot, that suppresses the bleeding. but it is not licensed to stop the bleeding. It is only licensed for contraception, so that's why we can't advocate it. But anybody who is having it for a contraception purposes, or does not want it to get pregnant when they come back,
Period.
or they does not have issue, it's a good idea to have a depot as well. And in addition, if when they want it, they can have a little boost by the norethistron. That is more predictable.
I hope that that you understood that. What Doc is basically saying is that you take this long-term injection. You can't be taking it if you want to conceive, because then it's in the system and you can't get it out. But if you are past conception, don't need to worry about child birth or anything like that, or looking to bring up a family. Then taking that will remove the compliance. The compliance is so important. Fasting is out the window, and you've got to be super on it. And if you know that that's going to be impossible, then the only other way is to go combined contraceptive pill. But even that, you've got to take every single day. There's no way you can be lazy about this. You got to be on it. The ladies are really got to be on it when you're taking the medical route. So even those that take the injection, you're going to have to take an extra supply of norethistron with you as well, because possible breakthrough, possible changes. Number 10, I'm currently breastfeeding my 13-month-old and plan to gradually wean him off in the next few weeks. I want him to be weaned off before my next expected period, which is the beginning of April, like now. In case I don't manage to wean him off according to my plan, should it be okay to take the medication norethistron? The BNF does say the medication doesn't affect lactation, but I wanted to ask your opinion in case my GP turns around and says I definitely cannot take it whilst breastfeeding.
It's very small secretion in the milk is safe to take.
I agree. I used to have regular periods before I had my child a year ago. Since giving birth, I've been on desogestrel. However, my periods have been completely irregular, i.e., I can go a few months without bleeding, and then I could bleed continuously for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and then have a week of no bleeding, etc. What's the advice there?
Same advice. You need to boost with the norethistron, because it's unpredictable, isn't it?
So should continue taking the desogestrel,
Yeah.
and then 1-3 times a day. Now, obviously, she's got no period, so she just starts straight away, yeah?
Yeah.
So there's no, because obviously we can't work out where her cycle is. So
Yeah,
she shouldn't wait.
it's risky.
Mm,
It's a risky
mm.
scenario.
So,
It's unpredictability is the problem sometimes.
yep, yep. There's, this is low strength, desogestrel, isn't it?
Yes, it's a very low strength.
So is there a reason why that she might have been put on that, yani, and therefore maybe contraindicated in norethistron, or is that not normally the case?
It's not normally the case. I don't know. I can't comment on it.
So the reason I bring that point up, sister, is that there is a possibility that maybe you do know, or maybe your doctor knows, that they put you on that low strength for a reason. If there is some kind of clinical reason that you have not told us, then remember our original point as well, where there are complicated situations, you do need to see your own physician as well. When we can only work, from afar as best as possible, but there are limitations to that. And so if there might be another clinical reason why you might not be okay to have extra progesterone in the form of the norethistron tablet, then you need to check with your GP or your physician. But otherwise, the answer to your question is that, yep, you can start taking the norethistron 1-3 times a day, every 8 hours, starting from now. Number 13, I've been told I'm perimenopausal at 46 years old. Since the birth of my third son 9 years ago, I have been on the progesterone-only pill, Noriday. Last 12 months, periods have been all over the place until I stopped taking the pill 3 months ago, as I was constantly spotting and having very light bleeds. I now have a period. Oh, no, sorry. She's actually written it again. Sorry. It's in number 14, Doc, yeah? I now have a proper period. My cycle length is not set. It was 21 days during Ramadan, and my last cycle finished yesterday was 27 days. Currently, my period is predicted to begin on the 20th of May and finish around the 27th of May, with my next period due to start the 16th of June. I would get a better prediction once I have my next period towards the end of the month. I'm fine with menstruating in Medina mentally, but cannot be certain that the conditions will not bring on my period earlier. Absolutely. Or make it last longer. That's absolutely correct. Do I risk just taking norethistron after my bleed in Medina, or take it 3 days before my period on the 20th of May and take continuously until departure on the 10th of June and hope it is held back? I had a suspected blood clot with my first pregnancy. I'm a migraine sufferer, hence I cannot take the combined contraceptive pill. I show clear signs of ovulation, increased discharge and migraine symptoms, and will know usually that my period will start in the next few days.
This one is actually the perimenopausal is a term only. It does not mean anything. What it means is when you are going through the perimenopausal period time, your hormone release is all over the place. Nobody knows which hormone is high and which hormone is low. That's why sometimes you bleed, sometimes you don't bleed. That's why the people give mini pill just to regulate a little bit, to get you a sensible release of the hormones by negative feedback mechanism. That's why we give it. It does not mean it's the treatment. It's only to release your hormone in a sensible manner to control the symptoms. Otherwise, it does not mean anything. Your hormones are all over the place. Your response will be all over the place. You can't predict your cycle by just only waiting for the next cycle. Nobody can, no blood test, nothing can give you a cycle. Unfortunately, you have stopped taking the tablets as well, so that would have been give you a little bit constant progesterone, so we can add it on. Now your predict, it will be very, very risky for you not to have it anything, because stress, anxiety is going to bring the bleeding, unfortunately.
So we agree that she needs to take norethistron 1-3 times a day. The question is now what date?
10 days before you travel.
Regardless of period cycle, correct?
Yes.
All right. Is that clear, sister? All right. My period is due to start on the 30th of May, give or take a couple of days. Normally, it would last 5 or 6 days. But if I'm under stress, this could change. In case I'm unable to perform the essential tawaf, during the Hajj days, should I book extra days off after the 10th of June so that I can perform the essential tawaf in a pure state? If so, how many days extra? So I wanted to know that technically speaking, you are allowed to, Islamically speaking, from a fiqh point of view, that essential tawaf, which is called the tawaf of ifada, which is a rukn, an absolute pillar of the Hajj, according to all madhabs. You have the entirety of the month of Dhul Hijjah to do it. So another 2 weeks after we all leave, okay? So essentially until the 25th of June, you have as a deadline. Some scholars said even longer, but let's just say 25th of June as a cutoff point. Now that's obviously going to be enough for the vast majority of women who are menstruating at the time that we as a group will do it. Because we as a group, we're going to be doing that around the 10th, the 6th odd of June, something like that. 6th and 7th of June is when we as a group are going to be going to try to do the big essential tawaf. And so if you are bleeding at that time, you got a long time. You got another 19 days potentially, if you were to hang on. Now, what does hang on here mean? Hang on here means that you would be canceling your return flight and you would be at cost staying in a hotel and buying a new flight as well and changing obviously all of the holidays and all the rest of it back home. Now, let's now just try to understand the ramification of that. For the first few nights, there will be flexibility because our base camp will not kick you out. All right. It's like, it is a hotel, obviously, but it doesn't operate like the Mecca Medina hotels. And so what you're going to be saving is maybe 3-4 nights, maybe until around 13, 14 of June on having to pay for a hotel. Then you're going to have to pay for a hotel and you don't need to go towards the haram and it won't cost you more than, I don't know, £300-400 maybe, a couple of £100 to spend another 10 nights accommodation. I'm just throwing numbers out, to stay on extra. to wait for you to become clean again. A return flight would just be buying a single ticket. I would budget £1,000. I would budget £1,000, and your biggest problem is not the cost. The biggest problem will be availability, because every man and his dog is going to be trying to get out of Saudi during that period of time. It is these difficult circumstances and it is these costs. So we're now working out, obviously, from at home, missing out from being at work. I mean, and all the costs of that, maybe unpaid leave, etc., etc. This is multiple thousands of pounds, and you're going to be on your Jack Jones as well. This is what allows me, in my mind, to give a fatwa to a lady that says that if you're in that scenario and you're not going to come back again anytime soon, and you're not going to remain in ihram until you come back, that you have the permission, and this is on my authority, but more important, the authority of senior scholars, that because of this situation of yours, you are permitted to do the tawaf as you are, even in a state of menstruation. This is not something which is Mickey Mouse fatwa or something like that. This is according to what the scholars understand. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Fear Allah as much as you can. And so in this place, your hajj would be acceptable, and you have taken a fatwa, and taking a fatwa does not mean that it's a second-hand hajj. It means that you, different to everybody else, were afflicted with a situation that was not normative. And that's the reason that fatwas are there. That's the reason the scholars are there, to try to make things easier. Scholars have got a responsibility when you're messing around, when you're being lazy, when you're not putting effort in, when you're not putting money down, to stop you taking such a concession. But scholars are not there to block the concession when you've done everything that you can. You've planned it as much as possible. You've paid 10 grand for it. You've already been there for 3 weeks. You have a job and all the rest of it at home, family, blah, blah. You know that you can't come back because of X, Y, Z reasons. This is exactly the sincerity and the honesty that allows a person to be given a fatwa that they tried all their best, now go ahead. So that's the answer to that question, meaning that technically you could do that. We would not advise it. You'd be all on your own. It's not easy post-Hajj. It's very difficult to get a ticket. It will cost you a good couple of grand all in. And I hope that all makes sense. I have read your advice on the chat, but I feel I might need some further guidance because my thing is different. I had my last period in August 2024, and since then I haven't had a period. My main concern is that the heat and change of routine and physical activity might trigger it. I am 50 years old and going through the menopause. I am ready to take any medication to prevent my period coming back whilst on Hajj. I want to know how soon should I start the medication and which one should I take?
Medroxyprogesterone, please start 10 days prior to that, if you wanted.
Okay, so Provera, not norethisterone, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so sister, that will be the Provera drug in the UK. That's medroxyprogesterone. That is taken 1-3 times a day, and you don't need to start until 10 days before the. So that would be the 14th of May. That's because obviously you don't have a cycle. Yeah.
Just to let you know, the norethisterone is licensed to delay the periods. Medroxyprogesterone is only licensed for dysfunctional uterine bleeding, but has an alternative. We use it purely because that does not convert into estrogen, and that risk is not there. Otherwise, it is not licensed to stop the bleeding. We use it because some GPs use it, so we continue to use that one. Otherwise, the only medication which is licensed to stop the bleeding is norethisterone.
And everybody, I want you to know, this off the shelf and licensed, not licensed, and even the way that we're offering this, as a public service, right? This is highly, unprofessional. This is all being done out of, just trying to help people and the like. But you've got to understand the disclaimers. This cannot be seen as legal, clinical facts, blah, 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 blah. We're doing things in the field. We've said this at the beginning of this call. We said it in the video as well. Ultimately, you are completely free. Many of you are medical trained to go and do what you think is medically appropriate. The difference is that knowledge of the field is a very, very different thing. We know what you don't know. That's not to come across as arrogant. It's just that's just the way it is. It's just a fact. But there you go. As a breast cancer patient, I cannot take any hormonal pill. I know you mentioned the fatwa for the mandatory Umrah Tawaf at the end, but I'm still apprehensive. Is there a hadith to prove that this is an acceptable practice? No, there is no hadith to show that this is an acceptable practice. The evidence that is used by the scholars is the hadith of, is the ayah that I said. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, and fear Allah as much as you can. and you fulfilling all of the conditions that I said. So, for example, in the previous times, right, this was not such a concern. You can imagine that, it just means there's no job to get back to that is date specific, where there's only 30 days leave, where you've got to apply for it, where there's a flight that's waiting to take off, where there's transport to go. The Prophet ﷺ and the like, they were they're walking, they're on camels, they're on donkeys. There's no pressure, there's no scheduling, there's no people to answer to. The trip was never this idea of, I'm looking at my Hajj package options. That's 21 days. No, I'm not going 21 days. That's too long. The kids are behind. They'd bring their kids with them. They'd bring the families with them. Asma, when she came, bint Umaysi, she came and she gave birth on the journey. So it wasn't like, we have a few people who are pregnant that are joining us this year, mashallah. They're going to be 6 months pregnant, right? We're going to be looking after them all the way. But the same in 2024. We had heavily pregnant girls who have had now, I had our Hajj babies as well. And that was then, but that's a level down than to what it used to be, where they would come out in labor, go through labor in ihram at the beginning, which obviously I covered in one of the sessions, and I'm going to be covering again in detail. So they would come for months. So staying on afterwards was not an issue. So that's why not only do you don't see hadith, but you don't see even, I want to say, the situation coming up, because people would just stay longer. People would just stay on a couple of weeks. Oh, I got my cycle. Okay, well, I'm not going today. All right, then, well, you know what? You lot go, and a couple of us will stay behind. Can you imagine that happening today? Imagine the cost of a couple of people staying behind. That's another 10 grand right there, just accommodation and flights and this and all the bakwas is going to have to be sorted out when you're back home. So it's also important to understand that, that it's not, I don't want to say it's not appropriate. It doesn't make sense to ask the question, where's the hadith? You've got to understand the usul. You've got to understand how deen works and so on. So this became a matter of our modern era. And so in modern era, then you are required to give fatwa. Whenever you see the word fatwa, by the way, folks, it's basically meaning that there is no evidence. Because otherwise we would give you a fiqh ruling. Fiqh means an established legal rulings. If I can't do this, I do this. And if I can't do this, I do this. It's all established on evidences, and you can build a case. Fatwa is basically a unique emergency situation in which we do not have evidences to help us give a solution. And so therefore the scholar has to take it off his back, that to give to a person a ruling. And that is such a powerful thing that happens, that even if you follow other teachers and other madhabs and whatever, if a mufti gives you a fatwa, you are obligated to take it if you don't have anything else in the bank. It's a very interesting thing, the art of fatwa and the fiqh and the rulings around fatwa. So I want to make it clear that the basis, not the evidence, not the fiqh, not the hadith, the basis for the fatwa is us believing that you cannot possibly do more than what you're doing without going through real harm and financial harm, and the potential of losing a job, and being alone in a foreign country without a structure, etc., etc. This is the definition of harm. That's our job to define that. I'm comfortable with that, and therefore I take that responsibility. So I hope you understand. It's not. By the way, I'm not throwing it out like Smarties. Don't think that I'm giving that. But if that was the case, then me and Doc have spoken about this many times. Let's just get us rid of bakwas, all these headaches, all these webinars, all these medicines, and just tell all the ladies, just come enjoy yourselves. We're going to give you fatwa at the end. If you're bleeding, just go and then do the tawaf. There's a reason that we're not offering that as a solution, because we don't throw that card out lightly. The reason that we're going through this and having to kill ourselves, giving you these documents and these guidelines and do these sessions and have to sort out medication and do GP surgery sessions over there in Mina and base camp, is because we do want you to avoid having to take a fatwa. But when a person is in that scenario and there's no other option, the fatwa is valid. And Allah knows best. Right. Next question is over the, and yours is even more so. I mean, yours is like, mashallah, tabarakallah, you can't even take hormonal pills. End of story. Over the past few years of going to Hajj, where a sister's dose was modified by the Hajj group, did the team encounter these sisters having any immediate and unexpected reactions to the changes? In the example of going from 5 milligrams to 10 milligrams. Can you answer that one, please, Doc?
Sheikh, this is basically, we don't recommend it initially, But if we get desperate, or these situations become desperate, and we are just, because our strategy changes throughout the Hajj, because in Medina we treat people differently, in Makkah we treat differently, and if we are in the days of the Hajj we treat differently. We go, as the time goes, we go more and more aggressive as we go near the Hajj. As the question is how quickly the next question is how quickly you see the response. Again, who knows? But we have seen people, it works. It works. It works within a couple of days, but it works. And we have given, I think, maximum dose of norethistone I have given to 3 or 4 ladies last year, and it worked. And one of those lady was not taking any medication. So first 3 days, because it was Hajj was so close, 3 days we give her 5 milligram 3 times a day. If 3 days she was still bleeding, we give 10 milligram, and next day she stopped bleeding.
Mm. What would be the ruling of a sister finally getting back to Mina after a long day of rituals on the 10th of the Hijjah, and she discovers that she had spotting after completing all of the required rituals? Would this day even be considered as her completing her Hajj obligations or not, considering she had no idea throughout the day that she was spotting all day long? The answer would be that, and this will be asked to me, and the questions that I will ask when that scenario is put to me will the answers that are given to me will determine whether that Hajj is valid or not, or that Tawaf is valid or not. Meaning that if there was an indication that that was going to happen and then it happens, that's very different, and we can't depend upon that being valid, the Tawaf being valid, versus a person who had no idea that was going to happen, went ahead and did it, checked, and then saw the spotting. There is absolutely no legal basis to assume that that spotting started at the beginning of the day. Who said it didn't start an hour ago? You understand what I mean? From an Islamic fiqh point of view, there is no need to take the worst case scenario. So it all depends upon these specific. Don't worry about these little things. These are weird questions now. These are hypothetical ones, which are not nice questions. It's not the Islamically right thing to do. You have no idea you're going to be that person. Let scenarios play out, and then we give the situation. And the sister again asks, is there any side effects that we knew of those sisters that got back? I never heard any. Did you, Doc?
No, no.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but none of the sisters that we gave extra doses to let us know from 24 or 23 that, oh, by the way, do you know that when I did that, this is what happened? We didn't hear anything. But that's certainly, as we say, Adam al-Wurud does not mean that it didn't happen. Just because they didn't tell us doesn't mean it didn't happen. My periods used to be regular, never an issue for 28 years. Now they've been irregular, sometimes 2-3 weeks, sometimes I won't bleed at all. GP are conducting results, tests, but we don't know. For this reason, it may be that I only receive norethistron towards the actual Hajj time, meaning that she will not get a supply from the doctor. Will this be a problem, as you said, that you should use it in the first day of the menses? But that, at the moment, I cannot even predict when this will be. Can I just start using norethistron a few days before Hajj, irrespective of when my actual due date is?
The ideal situation, don't wait for the ultrasound from the NHS. Get it done, because Hajj is very important for you. You have spent thousands and thousands of pounds on the Hajj. It will be ideal to get some predictable response, or a surety of what you have. Most likely, whatever you're describing it to me sounds like a fibroid to me, but I can be mistaken. So that is the ideal situation. Number one, if worse come to worse, if you are can't take it before, then you have got only one choice, to take it 3 days before anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say that but yeah, I mean, also, again, mental strength is going to be important. 3 days before, if it doesn't stop and it carries on into Medina, so be it. The idea will be that you'll get another few days into the system. So it's just the best as you can. Now, what if she does get it early, Chief, meaning the doctors give it to her, but she's still not bleeding? So she can't work out with her, but when her period starts, but she does get it 3-4 weeks
So
before.
just
You
then
should
start
start it
it,
straight away. Yes? Yeah,
because
yeah.
the way it works,
Um,
the norethistone is the one which stabilizes the womb lining.
yeah.
So if you start early, it will be just
It'd
stabilizing your
be
womb lining.
better.
That's what it
Yep,
is. The
yep,
sooner the better.
yep. Okay, according to my app, I should finish my bleeding around my period around the 24th of May. Therefore, during Hajj, I should be clear with the next cycle showing to be expected around 17th June. Obviously, my cycle in May will confirm this. I have a 6-day variable cycle, and the rest of it is basically 26 to 28 days. Basically, I bleed between 3 to 5 days, the majority being 3 days. Obviously, quite a few sisters will be able to relate to that. I want to avoid taking any types of pills or anything that can impact the cycles or the periods itself. This is because we have been trying for a child for 14 years and every cycle is precious. We aim to go for IVF when we come back, inshallah, and Hajj was our priority before IVF. I am now 41 years old. We went to Umrah in October, and alhamdulillah, I did not have to take anything as the trip was planned around my cycle. I did have a 24-day cycle that month. I used to have a cycle of 34 days until I had sepsis in 2019, lots of surgeries, blah, blah, blah. Now suffer edema and take furosemide, slight blood pressure, that's okay. I want to make sure that I can complete my Hajj. Okay, so the questions are there any other medications that can stop a bleeding immediately in case I start bleeding due to stress, being around other women, heat, and etc.? There is no, I can answer that. There is no medication for that. Number two, if I finish my period on around the 24th of May, can I avoid taking norethistron? And if for any reason I have a delay in May, can I start taking norethistron on and around when we leave from Manchester in May, as then I will have better control of it during the Hajj days? Or when is the latest that we can take the norethistron?
It's $1 million question, Sheikh. There's no answer to this one. I can't comment on it because it's so much variability, so much unpredictability there. Yes, whatever she has put the scenario in ideal situation, she should not be taking anything just because if it means that one cycle is missed. But unfortunately, there is no other alternative here. There are too many variables here, and we can't count for those ones, unfortunately.
We don't expect it to have a permanent effect on the viability for IVF,
Yes,
though, is there?
no.
It would just be a couple of months delay on the likelihood of
Yes.
being viable. Yeah. So that's the first thing you need to know, that taking norethistron, technically, we can't give guarantees, but there should be no real reason that is going to block that. But as you said, each cycle is a positive sign. It gives you more hope, makes you more viable, and it will delay you for IVF for a couple of months. So that's the case. The simple thing that we're saying is that you're making it sound very straightforward, meaning that this is perfect. I'm going to finish my cycle just before I start the trip. I'm going to start it again after. What's going to happen is that you're going to start bleeding over there. And that's how you got to assume it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't happen. But if it ever is going to happen in your life that you are going to have a bleed, it will happen in Saudi under that temperature, under that condition, where technically it shouldn't come early. By the way, the warning signs are already there, right? You said yourself 29 days, 26 days. You had a 24-day one in October. October, I was there as well in 2024. Temperature was fantastic. I put to you that something reduced your cycle by 2-3 days. That temperature could have been enough. It was 30 degrees. This is 50 degrees. And I'm saying to you that I think you need to bring the norethistron with you. And whether you decide to take it or not is a question that we cannot answer. That's your choice. But I would absolutely bring the norethistron with you if you do need to start it. And then it will kick into the system 2 days, Chief? Yani, takriban 2 days-ish with some tranexamic acid?
Yes.
Yeah. Make sure you bring the tranexamic acid as well. That's important. That's going to help the breakthrough kind of sudden bleeding as well. This is someone, I don't know if this is, yeah, absolutely desperate to get this question answered. What will Albait provide? Don't want to double shop. All on the packing list. Okay, we're going to show that now. And laundry service is not included, but we have a really nice setup in Mina. Lots of machines and stuff, so you can use the washing machines there. And there's laundry services around. Yeah. I am on Prostap injection for a year to control my bleeding, but unfortunately, it's not working. I have a history of breast cancer, and as my gynecologist said, I can't have any kind of HRT. My periods are not only prolonged for 17 to 20 days, but I also get periods after 12 days or so. Sometimes it's 2 to 5 weeks. I talked yesterday to the GP as soon as I read your message of having tablets, but he said he has to talk to my breast cancer surgeon. He said that even then I can't have the tablets for 7 weeks. What do I do?
This is your question, not my question. Basically,
Yeah, I was gonna.
she's got breast cancer. If she only
Yes.
she's taking pro steps, sometimes people can give it, but because of the history, she can't.
Yeah. So what's going to happen, sister, is that on a almost daily basis, we're going to be speaking over there. You're going to be speaking to me about. I'm going to be asking you questions about the nature of the blood, and essentially what we're going to do. Right. This is now outside of the norm. We're going to be trying to ascertaining whether and what from your bleeding throughout this period of time is actual menses and what's to be considered as menses and what is to be considered as istihada. And we will essentially create for you an artificial period uh, of a period. We're going to essentially allocate during this period of time that the bleeding that occurs then at this time, this is what we're going to designate as period. And the bleeding that occurs at this time, this is what we're going to designate as non-menstrual bleeding. And therefore you carry on doing the acts of that are required. This can only be done in person. This can only be done individually. So you can't take medication anyway. So don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. Leave the frustration. Put the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, stay healthy, stay hydrated, get fit, and the rest will take day by day, inshallah. All right. That's a very unique situation that you have there. According to my period tracker, I will have my periods on the 12th to the 17th of May, and then again on the 12th, 17th of June. Obviously, it will change due to stress. I have got medroxyprogesterone that I take 3 times a day. When should I take them?
Same 10 days before, 7 days before, ideally, minimum. She's already taking
That's
medroxyprogesterone.
regardless. That's regardless of cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she's taking it. She's just been prescribed it.
Yeah. So if you wanted to take that preferred one, that's fine. If you take neurotestosterone, that's fine. But we don't take anything granted. We try to advise it a little bit extra to start 7 to 10 days in advance. That's better.
Currently premenopausal, number 25. I'm on the Marina coil, not had regular periods for the past year. So for example, my last period was 2024 September. Then I got random 3-day spotting on the 21st of May.
So it's
21st of
been
May,
answered
I think,
before.
which
She
means
can have
March.
neurotestosterone 10 days before because she's going to bleed.
10 days before, yeah, okay. 10 days before leaving, 14th of May, start the norethistro stick to it. I am on HRT Averell Sequi patches and have a withdrawal bleed usually on week 4 when taking the last Conti patch 8 of the monthly pack, which contains both the estrogen and the progesterone. I suffered greatly, both physically and emotionally, with perimenopausal symptoms prior to starting HRT 6 months ago. And so naturally, I'm a bit apprehensive taking any additional hormones that does not affect the HRT working and the returning of those symptoms. According to my calculations and dates, it appears if I do nothing except continue with the HRT as normal, my next cycle is due week beginning 28th of April, and thereafter the week beginning the 28th or the 26th of May, which will be a problem for Umrah on 28th. I have taken the 28th of May. I have taken, so let me just pause and tell you there that that's the kind of problem that we like. That problem is the problem of Aisha. That's exactly what happened to Aisha radiallahu anha. You see, there are levels of problem. So, when we said about, what's a problem and what's not a problem, there's an insurmountable problem and then there's a problem that we can deal with. The problem that you described, which is to have a bleed, meaning your cycle, during the Umrah, before the actual days of Hajj, that's something which is documented at the time of the Sunnah because it happened to the Prophet, it happened to Aisha radiallahu anha, and the Prophet ﷺ told her to not do the tawaf. And what he actually is a very interesting hadith because, and you'll start to study this later, she was meant to basically do ifrad hajj, essentially a hajj that would not require to have to do that umrah because it only has the tawaf later when she'll be pure. She did become pure, right? this hadith is fascinating. She did become pure. She did everything as the Prophet ﷺ told her. She did do the tawaf on the day of Hajj, on the day of Eid, like the rest of our group were doing, like the Prophet ﷺ did. And she did. She absolutely smashed the rest of the Hajj completely. Kept quiet when everybody's about to go home. Voices, you know, young girl she is. Voices get into her head. She starts to get upset, moody. Prophet ﷺ clocks on something's wrong. What's up? And she's like, you know, all my mates are giving it, you know, we did two umrahs, you only did one, you know, and she's basically trying to ask for a little bit of kind of, situation. So the Prophet ﷺ, um, it's actually hilarious because he said, find your brother and let him take you. So, she calls Abdurrahman, and Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr radiallahu anh, takes her off to a place which is now called Tan'im, Masjid Aisha. And essentially, they added an extra Umrah, the one that she had missed out on the 28th of May one that you're reading in your notes. So essentially, she ended up doing a Hajj Ifrad with two Umrahs. Anyway, put that aside because it doesn't change the fact that she didn't do Hajj Tamattu, which is what the Prophet ﷺ, essentially told everybody else to do. Now, I don't want to confuse you, meaning so that's not a real problem. We have plenty of time for you to get your Umrah done, right? On the 28th. Your bigger problem is the Umrah later, not the first one, all right? It's the second one. Now, having said that, I have taken norethistron previously, just days before the period, due to start to delay the periods. Before I used to take HRT, and there was no issue, and it worked, and it was fine. But I appreciate your comment in the video that the intense conditions of Hajj may cause other effects. So what do you advise to start taking it at least one cycle before departure? Essentially, what she's saying is that, I guess, could she avoid taking it? And then if she's taking it, when should she take it? Being, having so much problems with extra progesterone in her body whilst taking HRT.
It will not harm her. The problem is this: if she does not take it, which one she will prefer? If she will delay the first Umrah, then she will be bleeding during the Hajj days. So the risk is, yes, she can delay it. Yes, if she just make a decision, okay, first Umrah she will not do it, and then she will only do the Hajj Umrah, and then she can continue to bleed. That's fine.
If she doesn't, no, if she was not to take anything, and then she would start her period in the 28th of May period time,
if she
she'll
won't
be
do,
done.
then she will not do the Umrah with us. She let it bleed. Then she will start before the Hajj days. She can start taking the tablets, because although she has stopped bleeding, but that is not given her a guarantee that she will not bleed due to that one, isn't it?
Later.
If you want to take medication only for a short period of time.
Yeah. So therefore, you're saying might as well take it out if you, or rather, if she wants to remove all doubt, she should start then at the beginning of this current cycle.
If she has taken it for 2 weeks, I don't think so. 3 weeks will make a huge difference here.
Yeah. So what date would you suggest then, a start date?
She can take it when she is leaving from here, let's say 3 days before, or just on the day as well.
Therefore, 26th of, she's saying that my current plan would be that the cycle would start on the 28th of April, and then after that, the 26th of May.
Yeah, so
and we leave on the 24th.
On the 24th or 25th of May, continue till the Hajj days, and then stop it after, just immediately after the Hajj.
After the Hajj, yeah, okay. Should I? Yeah, and is at a wedding? Okay, so you can watch that. Do you need to buy a sleeping bag? No, you don't. Right. So, right. Okay. So we have, what side effects are there from taking norethistron in general, and also for taking from a prolonged period of time?
Theoretically, the risk is because unpredictability sometimes, but as we discussed it, that is with anything. The side effects of increased risk of clotting, because it converts into estrogen, but very small amount, very minimal risk. Other than that, the mood swings or whatever the other normal pills side effects are simple. It sometimes get migraine triggers migraine or mood swings, but headaches,
Okay. All
but
right.
not any specific
Next,
ones.
number 28. I am a Hanafi female. I have endometriosis. I discharge every day, very often, almost with every salah. I do wudu 4 to 5 times a day. Sometimes I can keep my wudu without discharging impure fluid for around 40 minutes between two prayers. Note, I say impure fluid because in Hanafi fiqh, white, clear, or slightly yellow discharge doesn't break wudu. However, yellow with odor is impure. I have a combination of both in my cycle. I usually have to check at the start time of every prayer if I have discharge and whether I need to renew my wudu. However, during Hajj, I know that won't be easy to check before every prayer if I'm in public places. In this case, what do I do? For example, what if I prayed Dhuhr and stayed in the masjid, blah, 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 blah. Let me make something clear, sister. All right. As I said before, or in some of the sessions that you might have seen pre-Hajj and then after in the material as well. When someone wants to take a specific approach, like saying, I am Maliki, I'm Hanafi, I'm X, I'm Y, it is your responsibility to then continue to take that ruling, especially when I vehemently disagree with the ruling. Like what you just described was the actual proof to why I would not consider that ruling. You gave me two obvious, and it's useful for everybody else listening so they can understand why people do not take and agree with other people's rulings. You mentioned that there is a differentiation between a continuous, consistent daily discharge, which is alternating between white clear with odor and yellow clear with odor. There's absolutely not a shadow of a doubt in my mind that none of this is impurity. And in logical progression, we've spoken about female vaginal discharge anyway, and I have a paper on that as well. But put that to the side. Just giving you that indication that the way that that's making a woman's life live on a daily basis to make her even consider that this is something impure is as far as possible from what a fiqh ruling should be trying to achieve than anything else. So the right at the get-go, all of the examples that you gave are not going to be an issue. You neither need to check. This is a medical condition that you suffer from, and it is not an impurity. Not only is it not an impurity, your wudu is not being broken, and neither are you obligated to make istinja. I have a paper on this, and I will post it in the menstruation point. But that's irrelevant if you are saying, I'm only going to take a Hanafi ruling. If that's the case, you must go to your Hanafi sheikh or teacher or muallima or muallim and get their fatwa. It is their responsibility and your responsibility if you are insisting on that. The second alternative is what I've been explaining so far. When you're in a group or in a program or an X or in a Y and a Z, what is obligatory upon the non-mujtahid, meaning the non-scholar, is to follow the scholar. Then that's not me gassing myself up. That's me telling you what's your legal obligation. Your legal obligation is to follow according to whatever you know of your own knowledge. And when you do not know, then is فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. At that moment, you either have your sheikh on phone who gives you individual rulings. And by the way, I am absolutely delighted with that, not because of, and I explained this previously and I explained it again in the masterclass as well. That's not me being patronizing or me being kind of passive aggressive. I celebrate the discipline of people sticking to a school of fiqh and to being to this level and having a relationship with their teacher that they can contact whatever. But I know that most people can't and don't. And I know that the vast majority of Muslims do not consider this type of fiqh as their day-to-day fiqh anyway, which is why I know that when they're in the group format, they don't need to give me all of this information. I'm this, I'm that, whatever. Ask your question. Here's the answer. Stick to it. That's it. And so the answer to the question is that it is not impure and you will not need to miss anything of any sort of all the scenarios. I hope that makes sense. Is spotting outside of period an issue? The answer is no. I discharge almost every day. Some days I can be dry, sometimes between prayers I can keep my wudu, blah, blah, blah. Again, you've answered your own question. Do I qualify as an excused person? If you are not an excused person, then who is an excused person? And again, this is my position. Okay, this is my position. And then your final question is, My period lasts 7 days on average. The actual bleeding stops in 6 to 7 days. However, I do ghusl and I start praying after 10 days. This is because after day 6 and 7, I get a yellow discharge and it sometimes comes with odor. For menses to end, one must see the white or clear discharge or dryness. My discharge varies throughout my cycle. During ovulation week, it is clear, which is expected. Then sometimes it is yellow with no odor, and sometimes it is infection-like. I also get discharge almost every day. I have read that if it is close to your normal discharge, you can do ghusl before the 10 days. However, I find it hard to determine that. Please, can you advise on whether my menstruation lasts 10 days or 6 or 7 days or 10 days based on this scenario? The answer is, as you have described, your menstruation lasts when your bleeding stops. It is not obligatory for you to see a discharge. This is the position of the majority of scholars. And especially in your case where your discharge is very similar to the discharge that you're getting regular anyway, there is no evidence to suggest that the discharge that you're seeing, whether white or clear or yellow, is actually not the discharge of your endometriosis or normal vaginal discharge, and nothing to do with your period cycle as well. Therefore, as long as you feel that your period has stopped, there's no consideration to be given to the discharge. So it's not about 6, 7 days, and it's not about 10 days. It's about when the period that you understand, when it stops, that is when the ruling stops. What I can tell you is this 10-day approach is 100% unacceptable, because essentially what you're doing is not praying and fasting based upon the idea that, you know what, I'm just going to chuck it. This is the classic approach that people do for fasting. How many people did you see? It says 5:35 that it's got a break. The clock alarm goes off at 5:35. The adhan goes at 5:35. The masjid calendar says 5:36. And you say, you know what, I'm going to say 5:37 just to be on the safe side. And you think that you're religious and you think that you've done a good thing. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the khair and the sunnah is to break early, meaning right at the moment that you're meant to break is breaking. There is no religiosity or piety in delaying it, just as it's not the other way around. If you're meant to stop eating at 4 o'clock in the morning and you're like, you know what, I'm going to stop at 3:45 just to not be in any risk. Why are you taking a risk? If the sunnah is telling you to stop at 4, and the Prophet ﷺ said that the barakah is with the people who delay their suhoor to the very, very end, who the fish are you, Yani, to come and tell us that your deen is more pious than the Prophet ﷺ? This idea is very common amongst Muslims. I'm not saying just you. I mean, it's us. It's a human reaction that we always want to just chuck on extra. When we pay zakah, I don't know what it is. I'm going to overpay extra £100. That will cover it. My menstruation, I got doubt, could be bleeding, not be bleeding, so I'm going to chuck on another extra day or two and not pray. My fasting, is it really set or not? Has the sun disappeared or not? Let me chuck on another 4 or 5 minutes. I don't see you saying that for Maghrib. That I'm not too sure about Maghrib. Let me chuck on an extra rak'ah. Yeah, I need to make it 4 rak'ah just in case. You know, the logic of this is completely unacceptable. And this approach, as I said, is not congruent to modern practicing intelligent Islam. So in summary, to stick to the facts, I do not believe that you have an insurmountable problem, and I will make your life incredibly easy, not just in Hajj, but after Hajj as well. However, if you want to insist on taking a Hanafi ruling, you must consult a Hanafi scholar and go according to their rulings, because obviously that's going to be different. Okay, what on earth is going on here, by the way? There's like about 26 million questions here. Are they repeating themselves or something, or what? Oh my life. Right. So just to clarify, the guidance table is only for those who wish to take medicine to stop their periods. Even under normal conditions, I'm expecting my period to start anywhere between June 6 to 10. I do not have to take the medicine due to past negative effects with birth control spotting, and also they're not available. I would be okay, inshallah, with having to miss out on congregational salah during this time. I don't want to mess with my hormones. And to be honest, it's a relief to learn that it doesn't sound like I have to. I am so the worst case scenario is that I am menstruating during those last few days and unable to do the final tawaf in a state of purity, but you will give a fatwa to deal with that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept my hajj, even though I chose not to try to use medicine in my situation. I do not have a Muslim doctor. I can get the thingy. Can I get the tranexamic acid anyway, just in case, because I don't want to go down the hormonal route. I will intend to do my hajj again. Does that change anything? and I don't want to go into this drug situation. I think that's very fair. That's a good question. So I can say before Doc comments that you're going to Hajj in the future one day doesn't affect anything. It is valid to give you the fatwa if you have had a negative uh, uh, um, negative yani, points with the medication before. You are not obligated to take it. So she's now saying, with the period coming at the 6th to the 10th of June, Doc, should she get some tranexamic acid? What should she do? What's her approach?
She has answered the question herself. There is nothing for me to add on that one. She answered her question. She has made up her mind. There's nothing for me to add on here.
Yeah, tranexamic acid
Yeah, that's fine. That
should she
helps.
bring it?
That lightens
Yep,
up the period. Yes, that lightens up the
yep.
period. That does not stop it. We use it for heavy bleeding to make it light period. We have used it when the people were talking earlier on about heavy dose of the norethistérone. Before doing the doubling the dose, we use tranexamic acid in between as well. So just to help it to complement that one. But on its own, tranexamic acid is going to stop it. I doubt it, but not a bad idea.
All right. I saw my GP. He said he's not going to give any medication because of a previous risk of stroke and heart disease after recent heart attack. Are you covered by fatwa? Yes. Anything you want to say about that, Doc?
That's same.
I have three different types of discharge. I need clarity about that. Number one, um, uh, okay. I'll be 56 in
This has
July,
been
but I
answered,
can.
Sheikh.
Oh, it has been, yeah?
Yeah, it's been answered. The only thing in addition to this is the number third one, which says the blackish color discharge which contains blood, not constant.
Not constant. So I'm getting black discharge. Occurs as of and when, not constant. Doesn't smell, and when tested with a pad, there's usually white or clear discharge. I did have a hysteroscopy in 2022, and I was getting prolonged bleeding, and they found small polyps decaying or remnants, and one small polyp was tested and confirmed benign. The GP opinion is this black discharge is dried blood, and that will be the same with me as well. This is not any period. In Canada, I found that the brand name is Norlutate.
Yes.
Northern Drone.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. Yep.
Augustine in America, Norulate in Canada, and Provera is
Norlutate. Yep. Provera is the medroxyprogesterone. Norethindrone is Norlutate. And what was it called in America?
Augustine,
Oh,
Aygstine.
Igestin. Igestin. If I were to take norethindrone during the first 5 days of menses, as you've advised, this is likely to terminate the period early or disrupt it in some way. If after starting, yeah.
Okay, basically, as I stated earlier, norethistérone stabilizes the lining of the uterus. If you started shedding it or started bleeding it, it's very difficult for it to work anyway because you are taking the medication, it's shedding it off, and it's not giving a chance to stabilize it. So it will disrupt, but will it stop? Nobody knows. That's why we
So
advise
she
it before.
yeah. So the question carries on. She's put it twice. But then after 1 or 2 days, so the period stops. Okay, so it's now terminated after a few days. She does ghusl, she starts praying. Then after 1 or 2 days, she gets a withdrawal bleed, which appears as possibly old menstrual blood or possibly withdrawal bleeding from the norethindrone itself. What is that bleeding classed as? And is another ghusl then required? Now, when we went through this doc, what did we not write this down in our document?
I think this is covered in the document. This is covered in the document, but we are not withdrawing anyway. What we are saying, you have to continue to stabilize the norethindrone throughout that period because when we are stabilizing the lining of the womb, we continue to stabilize it throughout next few days.
No. She's saying that so if I start my norethindrone on day 1 of my cycle or day 3 of my cycle, like we've told them, then in 1 or 2 days' time, that cycle is going to stop. Yeah.
No,
So
Sheikh,
once
we
the
have never
cycle
said
stops,
we are starting on day 1 or day 3. We are starting 3 days before the start of the bleeding.
this is the start of the no. We said day 1, day 2, day 3 of the actual bleeding is what our document says. Pretty sure. We said as early as possible.
Yes. No, if they are predicting to bleed, but otherwise before the travel, we are saying we start before, Sheikh.
Yeah, but we're not talking about travel now. We're talking about someone who has established their cycle, yani knows that their cycle is coming in earlier in advance. What and knowing that beforehand, the actual date of the cycle, we're saying that they've got to hit it early.
Yeah.
So she's saying that once I've started taking it as early as possible in my cycle, meaning at the
Yeah.
beginning of bleeding, it's going to take some time to get control of, because obviously it's already breaking down, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the reason why it's got to be done as early as possible. She says, so it'll take a couple of days for it to
Yeah.
stabilize
Yeah.
something which is already shedding. Once that has now been controlled, after a couple of days, there's now withdrawal bleeding, or there's now further bleeding. So it's stopped. She does ghusl, she starts to pray, and then it starts to bleed. What we were calling in 23 this breakthrough bleeding that was occurring after they've taken the northisterone. Now we
It's
started
not.
to double up the dose. Yeah, exactly. We started to double the dose of the
Yes.
northisterone and then added the tranexamic acid. What did we classify the bleeding in between? We said, right, that this is now no longer an actual menses, technical menses, right?
Yes. That's what we decided.
Okay. So I hope that that makes sense. I know that that didn't really come across straightforward, but yeah. I struggled to swallow tablets and I thought I should ask the GP for microgynon, but I'm being told that northisterone may be a better option to ensure no bleeding. In your medical opinion, which should I ask the GP for and how many tablets? I'm due to start on the week due bleeding, commencing the 2nd of June. So when should I start taking my tablets? So the reason she's asking for microgynon is because she doesn't like the idea of taking a tablet 3 times a day because she doesn't swallow very well. That's the wrong any problem to have, bro.
So the question is, if my no-nonsense approach comes here, good luck to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's no comparison
There's no
between. I
comparison.
mean, even the doctor's telling you, yeah, you're going to have to go for northisterone, and you're going to have to. Um, I mean, you just have to start as soon as possible, 3 times a day, on time. Yeah. I have an implant in my arm. Since doing so, my menses has lasted 10 days and is always followed with irregular bleeding. If I have the medication, the 3 times a day one, would it cause any issues?
No.
Correct. Yeah, you're just adding extra to it. Furthermore, I recall there is a medication known as medroxyprogesterone when I wanted to stop my cycle for Umrah. I had to have it once a day or a few days before the cycle. Could I request this medication from the doctor in volume to cover the extra days and have these instead of the other medication, which requires it 3 times a day? What is the better option? She is also only thinking once a day.
Good luck.
Maybe it was, maybe no, but I'm just wondering on what planet did I see a dosage of medroxyprogesterone in 10 milligrams a day?
No, it is
So we,
dysfunctional uterine bleeding. I've just looked at it. It is says because in the dysfunctional uterine bleeding, there no dose is mentioned there. Okay, the
right,
mention of
right,
the dose of is medroxy is 2.5 to 10 milligram, 5 to 10 days. That is the only thing is mentioned. It's not mentioned 3 times a
right,
day there. 3 times a day
right.
comes in later on in the endometriosis because it's not the licensed for stopping the bleeding. That's why
Yes,
it's not mentioned.
you're not gonna find it mentioned. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but when you're looking at which condition you should use to make qiyas from, it is endometriosis as opposed to dysfunctional uterine.
Yes.
Yeah. I just basically to answer your question, sister, you should stick to northisterone. As we said before, it's the drug of choice. Okay, not medroxyprogesterone. Um, if I experience istihada when I'm there, how difficult is it to renew wudu before each salah? It is difficult, but not that difficult. You don't need to worry about that, and you can read my paper on that. You might end up not renewing your wudu anyway if you take my ruling. I am expected to to start my next cycle from the end of May, early June. What is a recommended date to have it from ideally? So 10 days before you travel, which will be the 14th of May, that's when you should be taking it. I currently take the progesterone only pill for for endometriosis and adenomyosis for many, many years to stop menses. Previously, I've also been on the combined pill for this, but since last year, switched because it's less risky. After carefully reading the advice, I followed the chart to see that for my recommendation is extra pills. The instructions say to take the first day of the cycle. The instructions say to take the first day of the cycle
Sheikh,
or the
I think,
first 5 days.
yeah, I have read the table myself now while I'm talking to you. This is the advice is if they have predictability of the cycle exactly right, and that's why they
Yeah.
wanted to start. But if they
Yes.
wanted to postpone the periods, then they have to start early before
Yep.
there is any chance of bleeding, 3 to 5 days before the start of the periods. So if they wanted to postpone it, but if they wanted to stop the period, then they have to start very early.
Okay. But most of these ladies that are asking this question know, well, not most, but I mean those that are asking the questions with a date, they do know the date of their cycle.
Yeah, 5 to 7 days before, that's it.
Are you saying now across the board, Yani, 5 to 7
No.
days, whether you
If
know
they
the
wanted
cycle or
to
don't know
stop
the
the
cycle?
periods, whatever the date of the period is, 3 to 5 days before the start of the period, they start taking the medication.
Yani, what you're trying to say is as early as possible. That's what you're
Yes,
saying, isn't it?
yes.
And folks, I just want to say that I spoke about this in the video, and I spoke about this and I wrote this in the guidance as well, saying what that you are gonna be told that there's 3 days before you go on your holiday, or 17 days maximum, blah 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 blah. This is all nice and cozy and wonderful. The truth is that in the real world, if you want to get used to a situation that your body's not used to, which is to not have a period, you have to have an error period built in. You have to get your body used to it. You got to have any problems ironed out before you come. You got to make sure that you stop bleeding before you arrive, because no one wants to miss out on praying in Medina. You see, a practical approach based upon the ground, yani, is very different to the theory. In essence, however early as possible that you can start the actual norethistron or any tablets, the earlier the better. Otherwise, technically speaking, if you have a cycle and you start at the beginning and you're very regular, you're not going to have a problem, because you are so regular, your system's very regular, your body's regular, you don't have any conditions, you don't have any preconditions, you don't have any other issues. Therefore, you taking a tablet on time, even in the middle of your bleeding at the beginning, is going to work well in time. But if you don't know your period, if you've got irregular periods, if you've got issues with your doctor, if you've got all these any problems, then it's a simple general rule to take it as early as possible, even if it's a few days before you start bleeding. Okay, even if it's a few days before you start your cycle. Okay, Doc, we need to make a decision here. I didn't realize that we're on question 35, and there's like, we've already done an hour and a
5660.
half. Get to 5660, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. I currently take the progesterone. No, I've done that. I don't have a regular period, and sometimes my period just skips a month. If that happens just this coming cycle, what should I do? So, for example, if I'm due my period on the 1st of May, a few days go by and doesn't come, should I start taking the medications on the 5th of May regardless?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that I would agree with that. Earlier the better. I have a background of pulmonary embolism, 2017, required thrombolysis, heparin, and apixaban, 6 months.
I've
Did we not?
answered this
We've
one.
done
This
this.
was the
Yep,
first one I
yep,
answered.
yep. A bit confused. My cycle is predictable. Currently due on the 29th of May, most likely to finish on the 5th of June. I could possibly not take any medication and be okay. However, I'm worried that the conditions will change everything over there. My last Umrah was January, and I had a mid-cycle bleed. There we go. That's just to let everybody know. This happened during the Umrah because of extensive walking, possibly, and everything went back to the normal next month. Just in case you don't believe what we're saying, you take it from one of your group members. If I take the medication, norethistron, um, will I get my period? Will I get my period symptoms the entire time taking them? So I suffered with pelvic griddle pain with both my pregnancies. 14 years later, I still get the pain at the start of some of the cycles for about a week. Loose ligaments, painful pelvis, difficult to walk, etc. Once the period shows, these symptoms vanish. The doctor says it's hormones related. The physiotherapist says it isn't, and the pain can go away for. I'm having a. Okay. So my question is: will the medication, because the period is giving relief to her pain, will the medication blocking the period therefore bring on the pain? Okay, the GP and physio don't think so. Should I take the medication or risk it with my dates? If I was to take the medication, when should I start? I'm not keen, but I could start, on the 25th of May if I'm due on the 29th of May. Maybe double dose would be, maybe double dose would work. I'm also happy to speak about this on the webinar.
Yeah,
What do
I
you
think
think?
it's a good idea to 24th, 25th, because we are traveling on 24th, isn't it? So 24th,
Yep,
you can start on that day, to be honest with you.
yep, yep, yep. Inshallah. Would northeastern cause problem for PCOS? Does it make acne worse, etc.? And having difficulty conceiving as well, any negative consequence? Well, we know that obviously it will delay the consequences, but on acne and PCOS?
Uh, do we care about that one? No,
Yes, 100%.
it's temporary. It's a temporary measure here. It's not long-term effect of that one.
Yeah. It's not, it is, yeah. I mean, any conditions that it does, and obviously blood pressure, this, that, they are temporary. That's the first point. The second point, she asks if I am bleeding during the first Umrah, can I do the Umrah in Aziziyah? The answer is absolutely yes, you can. But be aware that we don't have that much long time. So don't try to be thinking, the only way that would work is that if you were bleeding and you are going to be ending around the date of the 28th of May. All right. Because if you are starting bleeding around the 28th of May, you don't have that long to get another Umrah done before the days of Hajj. Because we've got 4 days in Mecca and then 2 days in Aziziyah. Yani 6, 7 days really is all you've got. Now, if you'd finished your bleeding around that time, around 28th of May, then you've got plenty of time. But if you start bleeding on the 28th of May and you're a 7-day cycle, then you're not going to have any time. So again, then you're going to be a person that needs to be considering the tablets. I have PCOS, fairly regular periods. I've used the contraceptive pill before, and it's messed me up completely, bleeding for months and spotting nonstop. I've also taken norethistron, which only worked for a few days, then it started spotting. What should you do? What should I do?
She don't have much of the choice, Sheikh, because as we stated earlier, the PCOS is a very unpredictable condition because the release of the hormones are all over the place. And sometimes some sisters are going to burst, some sisters are not going to burst. It's an unpredictable response. The problem is this: the only choice she has got a high start with a low dose of norethisterone, double the dose, use the tranexamic acid
Tranexamic.
with that one.
Yeah, yeah. So for you, sister, you got to do everything that we said, bring everything that you said, and start at least 10 days before the trip. If I'm possibly pregnant, what is your advice? She would not be
Congratulations.
taking it. Yeah, exactly. She wouldn't be taking anything, and you'd be, yani, mashallah. Um, for PCOS, would you recommend norethisterone or medroxyprogesterone?
Norethisterone.
My daughter has epilepsy, takes levetiracetam 1 gram and lamotrigine 50 milligrams twice a day, has irregular periods for the last 4 years, 6 months apart. She was told not to take the period control drugs because they'll clash with her other medications.
Yes.
And possibly and with a seizure. I think that they are contraindicated.
Yes, they are contraindicated.
Okay, fair. Then it's just, yeah, we'll deal with it over there then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I have 9 fasts to keep. Ramadan, is it obligatory? No.
Yes,
You
Ramadan.
can delay that until after Hajj. Leave that until after Hajj, okay? The fasts. My dates, or get them done right now. Don't worry about Shawwal, get them done right now, okay? You are not sinful. Either option that you take. My dates indicate that my cycle should end as we arrive in Medina, and the next should begin around the 10th of June, but sometimes a day or two sooner. Would it be best to allow naturally first and then take meds from the end of May and continue in order to prevent the June cycle beginning before I return? Meaning, should she just take norethistron over there? She gets heavy 9-10 days bleeding, by the way, pre-perimenopausal.
Yeah, the problem is this body has not read the books, body has not read the stress. It's a problem, it's a risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
She can start taking in Medina. Yes, she can start taking Medina.
Okay. I'm perimenopausal, take HRT. I have altered estrogen gel and progesterone tablets in the past to avoid menses coming at particular times. Is there an option? Is this an option for Hajj?
Yes.
Having said that, my menses started the last day of Ramadan, and then I did my ghusl midweek. I did some long walks and I had some bleeding today. And she's also potential breast cancer potential, waiting for results of biopsy.
If we have to wait for
What
the
do we?
result of the biopsy, then he has to make a decision. If there is a positive or negative, then it depends on that one, unfortunately. But if the breast cancer is out of the window, HRT, estrogen is she's taking. Estrogen is the one which makes more problem rather than progesterone. So we give some extra progesterone to her. That's fine.
Yes, so that means we would start you on norethistron لا يشفيك شفاء تاما لا يغادر سقما اللهم ربنا سد بالبأس واشف انت الشافي لا شفاء الا شفاءك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. I've needed to go into the pill many years when I had cysts, had bad reaction, doctor changed the tablets, so ill. This was a long time ago. It makes me very sensitive though. And I've been hospitalized in response to steroids and other medications. I don't want to take medication, basically.
Yeah, I've read this question. It's basically
Yep,
she's stating she is very sensitive to any medication
yep,
and she
yep,
like not
yep. I will
taking it.
give you fatwa. Yep, I'll give
Yeah.
you fatwa. No problem at all. Yep. Luggage allowance, so I will let you know. Honestly, right in the middle of menstruation, luggage. What's my luggage allowance, mate? Do I get one bag or two bags, bro? I'm due to start 1 week before we travel and should finish on 24th of May. I don't want to miss any of the trip. If I didn't start on the 18th, would taking the tablets on the 18th still be successful? Yes, you would start.
Yeah,
You would,
exactly.
that's it. Yani, no problem. Start. Absolutely. Also, a quick question regarding discharge around the mid-cycle. If we have discharge clear, no problem. No wudu needed. This is not something which is breaking the wudu. Okay. If I'm on my period whilst in Medina, would I not be able to go to the Rawda? The answer, according to the vast majority of scholars, is no, you can't. Okay, that's the position of all of the well, not all, but the four major schools of thought and the like. I am slightly maybe more flexible on the matter, but I do believe that the better position to hold is that position. Now, as you're going to see and find out later in some of the videos that are to come, I do not believe that the visiting of the Rawda is as important as people think it to be. Certainly in the eyes and the statements of the Prophet ﷺ is not as important because there's no action of worship to be performed in the Rawda. It is a factual statement about its maqam, not about what the reward is and what it does. But I know people are very culturally, very kind of, personally or psychologically very connected to it. So I understand that. But according to the majority of scholars, you cannot go into the Rawda. My period ends on May 23rd, day before we go, and I will be continuing my contraceptive pills that I have. Do I still need to get on norethistron? And if so, could you please advise from when?
If she is not having a period, she is having a withdrawal bleeding from the contraceptive pills, but she is having a break. So that's predictable. So that's fine. She can get an norethistron from the GP surgery, or she will not be having a break of the. I think it will be ideal for her not to take this bleeding, take this oral contraceptive back to back, and continue that one.
I'm Hanafi, I have endometriosis. You've asked your question already. Yes, you have. That's
I think
two
it's a double
times. Cheeky
question.
fish. Yeah, cheeky little monkey, honestly. Right. I have the Marina coil. My bleeding is very irregular, unpredictable, sometimes little no bleeding. It goes from missing months at a time to month-long bleeding periods, on-off spotting, coming up to 2 years. I had planned to remove the Marina as part of the Hajj prep and then use norethistron to control any possible bleeding starting from the week before Hajj. However, after watching everything, I'm now not sure whether to now just leave it in and start it the next time I start bleeding in April.
No,
Although
she
it's
should
so
not
uncertain,
take
I
the
don't
marina
know.
coil out, not at all,
Yep.
because that will mess up everything. And if she start bleeding or there's any chance of bleeding, we can give her a tablet to stop it. That's it. Don't mess up.
Yeah, so when should she start taking
Before
norethistron
she
if she
travels,
doesn't get
three
her
days,
period?
3 days before she travel.
Okay. Um, my second question is about making up fasts and being on the norethistron ASAP. Um, I noted the Sheikh mentioned that we need to make the difficult decision to make up our fast after Hajj. If you have 14 days, yeah, there's time, no problem, isn't it? If she wants to do 14 days to make up Ramadan now, that's okay. Yani, when we say start early, 1 cycle, 2 cycles, it's to minimize problems. It's not obligatory that you got to start early, especially if there's reasons. Yeah. If there is no reason and you're healthy and whatever, whatnot, then getting that tablet in and getting your body used to it, it definitely helps. A lot of people are not used to that. A lot of bodies do not react well to norethistron for the first time ever, and they're starting it in Hajj only 2 days, the only left. This is like the worst case possible. So the more that your body is used to it, your system is used to it, it's just better. My next period is due the 28th of April and the following one around the 25th of May. Is it worth starting the norethistron now, which is what we said, basically start even 2 cycles before, start it and get it in. Is it worth starting the norethistron now and delaying my April period until the week before we leave for Hajj? So whilst I'm there, I won't take norethistron and hopefully won't have another period until we come back to the UK as I have a 23-day cycle. No. Listen, sister, if you start taking any medication, you will 100% not be missing it during Hajj. In actual fact, you might be going double dose during Hajj. So there is no concept of you missing anything or stopping anything during Hajj. You will be taking it all the way. The only question, Doc, is when should she start if her next period is on the 28th of April?
See, it is difficult because she is on progesterone only pill anyway, isn't she?
Uh,
Uh,
no,
yeah,
no.
I think before the second period, fine. Let the 28th April period go. Start from the next one.
Yep. Okay. I'm currently on a progesterone only pill and I'm due to start on around the 19th to the 20th of May. Um, let's make this the last question, Doc. I'm currently on the progesterone only pill and I'm due to start around the 19th or 20th of May. It usually lasts 5 or 6 days. I know in your menstruation matters video, you mentioned starting norethistron on the cycle before we leave, meaning my April cycle. However, would it be advisable for me to start the norethistron on the beginning of my May cycle? Purely because I don't feel comfortable taking norethistron for that long, or is that too much of a risk? No, it's not too much of a risk, and she
Sheikh,
can start.
there's a flaw
Yep.
in this question because if she is on progesterone only pill, that is a continuous
Why
pill.
is
There
she
is no
getting a
break in it.
cycle?
From
Yeah,
where she is getting the cycle?
yeah. Maybe she's confused about the pill she's taking because
Yeah,
she's obviously getting bleeding.
yeah.
Anyway, again, if the pill that has sugar pills or inactive pills, you need to avoid those and take pills back to back to make sure that your cycle is not coming. Either way, if you will only stop your period by taking norethistron, then yes, you can start 10 days before we leave, which is on the 14th of May. Okay, folks? All right. And
There's
obviously, huh?
there's another question, 56 question.
Yeah. Um, no, there's not 56 questions. There is 89 questions, Lala.
Okay, there must be an increase.
Yeah. So this is they're mostly thingies, menstruations thingies. So 1 second, let me just make sure that that's the case. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's at least 20 more questions. This is going to take
That's fine.
another hour.
That's fine.
Yeah, so we'll have to do another session. We'll have to do another session. Um, yeah, we'll do another session because so folks, I hope that helped those Yani who stayed the course. I hope you got your answers. The men Yani are completely Yani they're like what the hell's going on? You guys have no idea what kind of bakwas we got to deal with, honestly. And but this is what it is. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written upon the banat of Adam, and we need to support them in that and make sure that our women are educated on that and that we can support them in that whole process. We will try to cover the rest of the questions, inshallah. If there's anyone that wants to actually take the mic, by the way, that's a point. Someone has a very urgent question on something. We'll give maybe 1 or 2 minutes prior to being given to anything menstrual or whatever. I can't see anybody raising their hands. And okay, so I think we can call it a night, inshallah. We will release the information. We're going to probably have to do it on Saturday. The one coming on Saturday would be combining, I think, both the remaining menses and then medical. Isn't it, Doc? Yeah?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, TK. So we're gonna release, we'll open up the chat tomorrow as well, inshallah, at a set time. And everything else. Keep an eye on the announcements channel. Obviously good news
But
on the Android. Huh?
Sheikh, no DM to any group leaders because they are busy in a lot of other projects. So just please
Very,
don't DM
very
anyone.
important, folks. I know that women, yani, mashallah, even on this form, people are writing their things like twice and 3 times and whatever. That doesn't mean that you get your question answered any quicker. Please do not DM anybody, neither Widad, neither Dot, neither me, neither whatever. That's also against the rules because we have a system that is sustainable. And if you try to make us burn out, you will be the ones that will suffer. So just wait for the opportunities for Q&A, the chat when it opens. Nothing is life and death. Okay, guys? Everyone thinks it is, but it's not. We don't have the capacity, especially now, which is unbelievably busy for multiple reasons. Okay, folks? Shireen, take us home with your question. You are unmuted, so you need to unmute your mic and you can go ahead and ask on. You need to
So,
unmute yourself.
yeah, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam
Just
alaikum.
I'm a little bit confused between the guidance on the document versus the video. The video mentioned that we take the pills, the cycle right before the Hajj, the last cycle right before the Hajj, but the document says that we need to take the pills ASAP. So I have there are two, like there will be a cycle in April and another cycle right before Hajj. So what should I do? Should I take it for April cycle or May cycle?
So like I just mentioned maybe just a few minutes ago, what I was saying is that you got two options, right? Both is just about a date, right? There's no doubt that the less headache and the safer, because every medication that you're putting in unnecessarily is not something which is good. And we don't recommend the person taking tablets for the sake of taking tablets. And ideally, we want to delay it as late as possible. So of course, the closest that you are to leaving, a week before, 10 days before, etc., is ideal. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. The problem is that life doesn't work like that. There's two obvious problems here. First of all, the lady who was taking the tablet that late is not someone who's clockwork lady, young, 20 years old, knows exactly any 6 days period, everything is super regular, knows exactly, she's very fit, works out yani, in hot conditions, very little effect on her. And therefore she can then exactly understand that, 10 days before I'll take the tablet, it will have this impact at this moment on my cycle, and it will work all perfectly, just like the theory says. So she's taking a chance because she's not normative regular, like the theoretical woman in casework examples are. The second issue is this, is that with the body not being certain, and you know that when it comes to this field, doctors often have to try different doses, different drugs, back and forth, right? It's a feedback system, change this, change that. When a person is starting so late, you don't give yourself that kind of option, right? Now, I want you to understand this, that if there is some kind of problem or failure, if it fails 3 days before you are leaving, which appointment are you going to get? Which alternative are you going to find? I put forward that even failing 10 days before is going to leave you with a problem. So I am always the safety approach, which is, you know what? Instead of waiting for the cycle just before, I start the cycle before then, which at this moment is April cycles. And start an April cycle, not because it's healthy, because it's not because it's the safest, because it's not, but because it gives you the maximum amount of time to allow, because ultimately, what are these drugs being given for? Your uterine lining is always trying to shed itself, or when the right time comes. And the more norethisterone that's given, the more progesterone, I should say, that is being pumped into the body as regular as possible, is maintaining that structure. The more that a woman gets used to it, allows that to happen, it's just more, not safer, more likely that she's going to be in control of not bleeding uncontrolled. That's the reason. So that's the reason between the contradiction between the two guidances on whether you should start on the first cycle of 2 cycles before Hajj, or whether you should start 10 days before. Starting 10 days before you leave, starting on the second cycle should be inshallah acceptable. But are you taking a risk over the one that takes it earlier? Yes, of course you are. But then that person's also taking a risk in taking a medication for months upon end. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Doc, what would you say on that?
No, absolutely fine. That was the reason we advised people last year, that approach we took it from the learning experience of 2023, and that approach we took it last year because because of this aggressive approach, we were slightly successful in 2024. Because 2023 we did not took that approach. 2023 was pure medical advice, whatever is in BNF or whatever it was, the 3 days prior and all that, and it didn't work. So that's why we change our approach. Look, it is a external hormone throwing into the body. We don't know how you are going to respond. Try it a cycle before. If it works, brilliant. Then we can have got a little bit more window to improve a higher dose and all those kind of, or give you additional things. That's what it was.
Okay, and yeah, just one more question. So there's this 17-day window that it will work, and then there's no guarantee afterwards. Like if I do this in April, this means I will be on the medication for like 2 months. Like
yes.
Is this safe, and also is this less risk to get bleeding out there?
It's not that it's less risk of bleeding out there, Shireen. And is it safe is based upon obviously individual patients. Some people can't take it at all, but a normal woman, no problems. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The normal woman that's not contraindicated. Yeah. And via the normal ones, which you can check with your doctor, check with the rules and the regulations concerning your particular health conditions. But yes, it's safe. And the woman that's normal. There's no less risk of it bleeding out there starting it early. Starting it early maximizes your potential for adjustments, changing the drug, understanding whether it works or not, whether it's a waste of time or not. It gives you time in the 3, 4, 5 weeks beforehand. Listen, I said this before, and I'll say it again because it's in writing, which is different to how I express it. The majority of the doctors that give these medicines are giving them to people who don't care about spotting. They're giving them to kuffar who don't want to bleed on holidays. They want to go and have a good time, all this kind of stuff. So they do not have any of the considerations that religious folks do. So that's why they can afford to give something very late, because for them, even if it's half as good as it could be, is good enough. Even if it generally leads only to spotting, nobody cares. Now, from a Sharia point of view, hayd is not based upon quantity. Tiny spotting and huge bleeding is exactly the same when it's hayd. You get my point?
Yep.
And so therefore, the 3 days, 17 days, all this kalam is not munasib for a Islamic discussion. It is munasib from a doctor covering his back, from a clinical point of view, blah, blah, blah. And even we agree, and taking it, for months upon months unnecessarily is not good. But if a person wants to take that approach, which is that they don't want to miss out on anything in the Hajj, they want to be in every masjid, every moment, every salah, every anything, when actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not written that upon women. You are meant to miss out and not be in the Hajj and not be not in the masjid. That's how it's meant to be, regardless of who you think you are. That's what Allah has intended for you. But a woman is saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. And she's completely got the right to do that. She's got the right to ask for that. So if she wants to be that person, then she needs to eliminate every possible thing that goes wrong. And if you want to be that person that's looking for such an idealistic approach to life, you're going to do things which are completely outside the norm. And of course, by its nature, risky. And therefore, taking it extra, taking it longer, taking it earlier than what would be a normal. Make sense?
Yep. Jazakallah khairan.
All right. Barakallahu fikum. Okay, guys. Jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, we'll release the video soon. I'll also put the paper up as well. And there'll be a second session. Inshallah, we'll release the video on that as well. And just make sure that you're actioning everything else. We'll start watching the videos. There's a lot of videos to get through, and there's another 4 or 5 to come as well. So let's get through that in the resources section. Use the portal, do the reading as well. Make sure your biometrics are done. Your fitness. There's so much things now. We are full Hajj mode, folks. All right. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakumullah khair, Doc. Appreciate your time. Barakallahu fikum. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka Allahumma wa atubu ilayk. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.